Hey, yo, everybody. This is John Ross Marcus Cox. Thanks for tuning back into the Way Too Much to RMC podcast. Um, that's the one I have to say. It is June 20th, 2022. Let me first off say how embarrassed and stupid I felt that it was last week when I was in the follow up to our big show with Pink and I. I think I talked for like 40 minutes on a live stream without any sound. So, yeah, I feel like an idiot. Today I'm recording this one and going to upload it as opposed to live stream it. For the most part, I'm going to live stream, but just to make sure I got my technology under control here up today, I'm going to record it and upload it. So that's why it's like this. But I'm not going back and editing anything or none of that stuff. I mean, you're getting it unfettered way too much from me. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, thanks a lot for tuning back in. So I hope you and your families all had awesome Father's Days. My family got me this awesome shirt right here. It says like, give me some mean tweets and $1.87 gas. You know what I mean? And they got me a cool wallet. I normally use rubber bands, but they got me this cool little military style looking wallet with my JRMC on there, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah, hope all you get to celebrate all the dads and in your life and yeah. So but kind of going with the flow of that theme. I mean, is there anything more fatherly than protecting our young and protecting our families and all that? So I definitely want to follow back up on this SRO topic that Pink and I talked about last week, and since then, man, some even more trouble and stuff has came out. So just to start off, I want to go into some stats here, and we're gonna start in the Jefferson County public school system. So. But I don't want all y'all thinking that it's just this is a city problem and it's just the just the big the urban folks and the place where we have dense populations. We'll get into that in a minute. But just to dive into this here, so this is from a WDRB article that was first published June 7th, updated on June 13th. Okay, so JCPS is 167 schools, about 94,000 students. Just to the first 155 days of 2021-2022. There were 19,000 behavior referrals. All right. That further broke into 121 fighting related referrals per day and right around like 9 violent related referrals per day. So that includes like assault, sexual assault, robbery, kidnapping, arson, criminal abuse, bomb threats, terroristic threatening, wanton endangerment. I mean, we're talking some bad stuff here. So about 9 of those a day, 121 fighting referrals. There's only 167 schools. That means you're getting, around this, dang near a fight per school each day. So, I mean, I don't know about y'all. I come from a little rural town in East Kentucky, but I mean, we like to get a little rowdy down there. So, like, we're the ones everybody thinks is fighting all the time. You know what I mean? And having a fight at school was a big deal, even in a rowdy place like that. We were like about to start selling tickets and stuff. That's how like everybody was ready for it. You know what I mean? So the fact that they're having almost one a day in Jefferson County public schools, I mean that should scare everybody to death. One of the craziest stats I saw here was that elementary schools actually had the most fighting referrals, and said many involved fighting with teachers and other staff. So we're talking kindergarten through fifth grade. Then it went on like 2,600 fights amongst sixth graders, 2,300 amongst seventh graders, and then it said that I think it said Male High School had the most fighting referrals amongst high schools, I believe. So if I'm reading any of that incorrectly, all y'all, especially in the Jefferson County Kids Matter groups, I know y'all follow this stuff very very well in there. If I'm misinterpreting any of that, please let me know. But to me, that's like when I read those stats and I think that, and I realize there was that doesn't even like mention the fact that we confiscated 23 different firearms from inside JCPS inside our schools this year. So like, when you put all that in there together, I mean, the thought that we didn't have a school shooting in Jefferson County, to me, is wild. The fact that we didn't have deaths and stuff like that occurring. So I mean, those are troubling troubling stats. And we just had another article posted today where someone is suing for their, I think it was like their 14-year-old daughter being sexually assaulted on a school bus. So again, it's, you know, we can fault whoever we want to fault for it. It happened. Okay, so it's just, you know, let's just start with that premise that it happened and it shouldn't have. It happened and it shouldn't have. You know, is it that they're on buses too long? Is it that the kids, certain age kids, or shouldn't be on there with other certain age kids? You know, do we need more monitors on there? Whatever it is, it happened. We need to make sure it doesn't happen. But, you know, like when I read these stats, it makes me think, you know, man, this is, you know, huge. You know, this is a city problem. You know, I said I'm from rural Kentucky, so, you know, we're kind of prejudiced against city folk. We think city people are yuppies and all that, but it's just, when I tell you this next stat, you're gonna be like, okay, so it isn't just a urban problem. So I went over here and according to the AP in 2018, out of the 10 deadliest school shootings, okay, out of the 10 deadliest, 9 of them were in towns of less than 75,000 people. So I think it's Uvalde. I think it's how you say that. Uvalde, the population is less than 16,000. So there's a ton of crime and terrible stuff happening in the urban area schools, but it's the rural areas where these terrible mass shootings are occurring. And it's, you know, we can attribute to whatever, you know, to me, my gut tells me it's because it's like they're more trusting areas where we think we can be more lax, you know, with our security apparatuses and that type of thing. We leave our doors unlocked, our car doors unlocked. You know, we know like Ralph down the street, you know, so we ain't got to worry about him. But fact of the matter is, like, there ain't no Mayberries left in this world. You know, it's in these small towns where the shootings are happening. Sandy Hook. I mean, let's keep going down the list. And so this isn't just a big city problem. So we need the rural guys and the urban guys to get together and try to figure out what's going on and how they can help the situation. So just to humor me here with a few more. So according to Bloomberg News, out of 145 school shootings in 2020 and 2021, 59 of them were in elementary schools, which I thought was a crazy stat. 57 were in high schools, 21 were in middle schools, and 8 didn't report. But like 59 elementary schools, 57 in high schools. That means, okay, like, we like to think number one, this is an urban problem. And then number two, we like to think this is an older kid problem. We need SROs in high schools, middle schools. You know, that's where we need to focus our efforts. But when you drill down into the data, it actually, the opposite is true. Just like we said, I mean, as far as, so this majority of these shootings are happening in elementary schools. And then going back over to the JCPS data, it says that elementary schools had the most fighting referrals, K through 5. So, I mean, like, that's where we, you know, need to be focusing efforts, in my opinion, and we'll get into that in a minute about how our current SRO legislation in Kentucky is structured and how what the changes were that just passed through here in this past session. But you know, moving on just to kind of show. So again, we just established it's not just urban areas, it's not just high schools, it's rural areas actually, and it's elementary schools actually that are having these shootings going on. Now, obviously, it's older kids as well fighting and all that, but huge chunk of it is in elementary schools. So let's go out to a couple rural areas here. So, for instance, in Paducah Public Schools, so this was posted this was an article on WPSD, which is the local news affiliate for NBC out in Paducah. They have SROs in all their high schools. Sorry if I'm in there. In their high schools and their middle schools. Okay, so they have SROs in all of those, right? They have one that patrols all of their elementary schools. One. And it says schools plural, so there's obviously more than one elementary school. And so a lot of people, especially in Louisville and in urban areas, they're not, you know, it's like in Louisville, we don't really necessarily have we don't have a feeder system into one big high school or one big middle school. We have a bunch of all of them. When most of these counties, you know, you'll have, let's take Bell County, for instance, where I'm from. You have Pineville Independent, Middlesboro Independent, and you have a county school, right? That county school will have elementary schools all over the county. But eventually, as those kids get older and older, they're going to funnel up into that one high school. And so, like, as far as I know, now obviously Middlesboro Independent will have a high school. Pineville Independent has a high school. Shout out to all my people down there. But like all those county elementary schools are going to funnel into one big high school. I know it's like that, next door to us out here. Like Oldham County has one county school. They have a north and south as well, but I would kind of attribute that to like Pineville, Middlesboro, and Bell. They're all in one county. But the fact they have SROs in their high schools, their middle schools, and then one that patrols the elementary school, like, are they not, like, this isn't hard data to pull up. I mean, this is wrong. I typed in where these school shootings happened, and there was 100 articles in there. So we know the majority, like the highest number, not the majority, but 59 out of the 145 occurred in the elementary schools, right? We know 9 out of 10 were in towns of less than 75,000 people. So why would an area like Paducah, that I would consider a small town, make sure to have SROs in high schools and middle schools, but not elementary schools? To me, this doesn't make any sense. Okay, and we're going to dig into it in a little while to talk about some of the things they're saying and why they're not when it comes to funding and all that stuff. But at least here in Kentucky, we've tried to make this a focus, and Representative Bratcher here out of Louisville has definitely been his baby the last several years because he cares and he wants kids to be safe, and he's a good dude, But I want to go through some of the changes and stuff that just passed here and discuss where I think we're missing the mark and where I think we maybe have some very, very serious unnecessary like errors, unforced errors, so to speak, on here. So a couple years back, we passed legislation, KRS 158.4414 here in Kentucky, that basically said you have to have SROs on every campus by August 1, 2022, but then it said as funds and qualified personnel become available. Okay, so that was, no matter what the rest of it said, that was the loophole that was, giving everyone the opportunity to, bend the rules. I don't think that most places were interested in bending those rules other than Jefferson County. But anything you leave open for them, they're going to bend the rules or break them or whatever. So this year, trying to clarify this a little more and kind of force JCPS's hands, I think that we may have had some unforced errors in Louisville, but also like in putting some unnecessary hardships on rural counties. So what they changed this year was, instead of no longer can they get SROs in there as funds and qualified personnel become available, it says local boards of education shall ensure for each campus in the district at least one certified school resource officer is assigned to and working on site full-time in the school building or buildings on the campus. If sufficient funds and qualified personnel are not available for this purpose for every campus, the local board basically has to, on a per campus basis, put in writing to the state school security marshal what they're doing to advance that goal and when they expect to have someone on site full time in each district. Okay. So basically what we did was we changed from just straight up saying as funds and qualified personnel become available to saying if funds and qualified personnel become available or aren't available, you have to write an action plan on how you're going to fill the positions. It's pretty much, that's pretty much the extent, of what we did there. To me, I think that still leaves way too much leeway for JCPS, because again, these rural counties, like, even though I'm telling you right now that they're focusing on the wrong areas, the wrong age levels and that kind of thing, on where they're putting the SROs they do have, they're still trying and have an interest in it. I know in my county, in Bell County, being an SRO at Middlesboro High School was a very desired position in the local police department. So I want to give a shout out to P.D. Gilbert, our local SRO in Middlesboro. Not only was he a great police officer and great human being, and Loved to give us fist bumps and handshakes and all that stuff in school. He was also our offensive line coach for our school football team and gave all of us positive experiences with law enforcement. So thanks again, Petey Gilbert. Love you, brother. But so we're basically going to make it, putting some unforced things on them that I'll get into in a second. But I just don't, some of these things, the next part, I really don't understand why we're doing what we're doing. So again, at this point now, they have to write a plan on how they're going to fulfill the goals, yada yada. Okay, but this next part's the most troubling one. And again, I'm not saying anybody did this at a spot or didn't think it through or whatever. And again, like I think until just recently, maybe that the parental involvement wasn't as organized and thoughtful as we all may have thought we were being, because we weren't really doing anything. We were just kind of on Facebook and maybe creating our little coalitions and our groups and all that, but we weren't effectively communicating it. So I think someone like Bratcher just kind of thought he was on his own, and like he's trying to deal with the unions and all that stuff. But the next change they made for this year, and to me this changes the entire ball game. It says local boards of education are authorized to establish a police department for local school districts, appoint police officers and other employees, prescribe distinctive uniforms for the police officers of the school district, and designate and operate emergency vehicles. Skip on down a little bit. They shall possess all of the common law and statutory powers, privileges, and immunities of sheriffs, except that they shall be empowered to serve civil process to the extent authorized by the local board of education, authorizing and employing them. So let me condense that for you. So this is going to be very specific to Jefferson County, what I'm about to say, but all y'all out there during this last 6 months that were like, that were you all that were the wave I was riding to get HB 51 passed in the House. It was those school boards that were not letting your kids out of mask. Okay, it's those school boards you're worried about making you put a needle in your kid's arm, right? Like up here in Jefferson County, it was the school boards putting out these weird memos making us, when our kids were in public schools at the beginning of the pandemic, that had some of us afraid that they were trying to say, like, if there's an outbreak in the school, we may hold your kids overnight without your permission. Like, that's the school board we're talking about. So I got to regather myself here. What I'm saying is, we're giving these people that we say we don't agree with their tactics as it stands, okay, we're going to let them have their own police department. Think about that. Chris Kolb will effectively be, 1/7 of a police chief, but he'll be establishing practices, establishing procedures, telling these police officers the extent of their authority. They also will have the power to levy fees and traffic citations and traffic regulations and all kinds of stuff. Okay, so we're going from not being able to get them to put SROs in schools in Louisville to overnight giving them the authority to have their own cops. So again, not saying anybody did it with ill intentions, and like maybe I'm totally misguided on this, but I don't want them to have their own police department. I want police to be police. I want the school board that's supposed to be dealing with getting our kids educated and not having, what do we have, a 28% literacy rate or something like that in JCPS? I mean, Kentucky as a whole is like at the bottom of education, reading, writing, arithmetic levels. Last 2 years, I've been complaining because I'm saying our school boards are spending a very large percentage of their time discussing public health measures that they have no like training or like background in being able to do anyways. So we've left, but so they've been doing that, and we, as of right now, they still haven't passed HB1, so they still have that power. Okay, so now they're medical professionals. Now we just made them police professionals, security professionals, safety professionals. When are they going to talk about teaching our kids to read? When are they going to talk about dealing with the busing situation in Louisville? If they don't have the money now to hire SROs, where are they going to find the money to build a police department? We're talking about buildings, administration staff, uniforms, patrol cars. I mean, the whole nine. So we just said if you don't have the money to get people in there, you got to submit basically a plan to tell us when and where you're going, or how you're going to get people in there. If you give this school board, especially Jefferson County, that kind of a window to where it's like, okay, well, it may take a decade to build a police department. So I guess we just gave them a 10-year window to do nothing but fill out a business plan that has no criteria they have to meet. So again, like, I want to say to Kim Bradshaw, I'm sorry that we haven't gotten involved till so long, because I'm sure he just felt like, he was trying to woo people over and, I think one thing was he was trying to get the rural areas to consider this an issue, and like, little do they know, it's as much of an issue for them as it is up here, in the urban areas. So in the urban areas, we have all this crime happening, all these daily incidents, okay, but when it comes to school shootings, it's in their backyard. And so I'm reaching out to all my rural rep buddies out there. Like, we need each other here. All right, I still consider myself redneck. I'm probably rednecker than most of y'all, even down in there, down in Rockcastle and Pike County and Laurel County and definitely Bell County. They're soft in there. They store bought. That's what my grandma says about me. But we got to help each other and not pass legislation or fix legislation that we've already passed that's going to create barriers for us to be able to take care of our kids. Because one other thing it says in here is that they basically have to be certified police officers. And there was a article, I think, that was posted. It was from Laurel County, where Laurel County is going to be establishing their own department. They cited that in the past, retired police and military had previously been used, but they'll no longer qualify because they're not certified police officers. I think that's short-sighted as well. That we should, I think that one thing I'm seeing in Louisville especially is that this whole idea about recruitment. So like, the talk is around recruitment and fresh recruits out of the academy. I got to be honest with y'all. I don't want fresh recruits coming out of the academy going into schools and being SROs. I just don't. I don't want like a hungry 21-year-old, 22-year-old going into these high schools, especially the high schools where kids don't have very much positive interaction with law enforcement. But these young guys are coming out of the academy with no wisdom, no life experience, just thinking these kids are trash and it's their fault, right? And like, not seeing themselves as like stewards of the community and like as a vessel to further advance, the community's, the harmony that the community lives in. It's like they're just telling me that people that I think are the exact type of people we need there aren't going to qualify anymore. We need retired police. We need retired military. I don't understand why we don't have some kind of criteria where it's you either go to the academy plus pass additional SRO training, because there is other SRO specific training, or that you show adequate previous experience plus pass the SRO additional training. I don't know why we would limit ourselves in an environment where we're already saying we have a gap in what's I'm looking for here. gap of interest or whatever. We don't have people to fill these positions. So I mean, that's one big thing. I don't know why we've done that, and I think it's very short-sighted to not go back and fix that, because again, I don't want all these school systems having their own police departments. All right, because I think you're going to run into more recruiting issues, because now you're not working with police departments and getting, and like transitioning people into roles that are, connected to the school district with the police department. But now you have people having to leave their department to go to another department, and I'm almost positive, and someone correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you switch departments, like you're going to have pension issues, like insurance issues, and anybody who's a cop or who's a teacher or who works for the state, like building up those years towards retirement for your pension is like priority numero uno. Okay, so if you got a cop's been there 14 years, he's not going to leave there to go be a first-year SRO if he's got to start back at square one. I mean, even if they have some kind of lateral movement criteria, it's still like the pension system's still going to be different. At least from what I understand, I know as a teacher that's how it is. So, if you're going from public, private, or whatever, I mean, maybe they've already fixed that, but if they haven't, that's definitely something they need to be looking into as well. One other thing that has been kind of presented to me, and I've told some people I'll be a sounding board for this, just to kind of fill out people's opinions on this. So this is really important. If y'all don't mind, like, make sure you're commenting on the video, whether it be on YouTube or Facebook or Rumble or Twitter, whatever. Let me know what you think about this. And what I'm about to say, this isn't going to fix the issue, okay? But we got to stop worrying about. We got to identify problems, okay? We don't identify problems just to identify them. We identify them so we can, so we can fix them, so we can further the cause, get closer to solving them, right? Well, so we know we have a recruiting issue. We have a gap in openings versus applicants. Let's take Jefferson County, for instance. We have 167 schools we got to get them in, right? Why aren't we opening up something to our teachers, ones that are concealed carry or whatever, and saying, hey, if you would be interested in kind of a hybrid position of being an SRO / teacher, let's apply, and then go carry it out there and say, hey, you can get an extra $20,000 a year if you will, and we'll freeze your position. We'll put a full-time sub in there for a semester. You'll get paid for being a teacher. It'll all count towards your teacher retirement, right? You'll get to go to the police academy, get paid for being at the police academy, come back, have your same position in the same school. Now you're a hybrid SRO / teacher. All right, like you're making 20 extra grand. You get to feel good because you're keeping your school safe, and you also just like made yourself very valuable to your organization. Anybody who works especially in the private workplace, like that's why people work long hours without getting paid overtime, because they're trying to make themselves valuable to their bosses. So when cutting time comes and somebody's going to lose their job, it ain't them, right? A lot of the public employee people don't know what I'm talking about there, but my private homies, y'all know what I'm saying. I don't know why we're not. That's not something that we are considering. Again, like I'm not saying allow every teacher to open carry. It's not what I'm saying. All right, like, do I think that is necessarily an absolutely terrible thing? No, but I do think it would be area specific. You know what I'm saying? Like in rural areas, I don't, where people are used to guns and all that, I don't think it would be an issue, but it could be an issue up in a more urban area if you just had random teachers packing heat and nobody knowing about it and them leaving their gun in their drawer or something like that. But like putting them through the extra steps of getting trained, dang on an extra $20,000 in front of them, like these are possible solutions, and I don't think there's going to be any one size fits all solution. But the one solution I do know is not a solution at all is allowing Chris Kolb, okay, Colby, everybody say his name, to become a police chief. All right, and I'll be honest, I don't even want if these candidates that are great candidates that are running to replace the JCPS school board were to get in there. I don't think many of them either are going to be comfortable making policing decisions. Again, they're running for school board. They want to help kids learn and become productive citizens in the United States of America. They're not trying to establish beats and look at crime stats and arrest records and arrest stats, and like they don't get paid, and we've already threw health onto them, and now they think that every time somebody gets sick, they gotta evaluate the data to decide if they gotta go back and mask or not. That's just one more thing to give them, and so we're actually just moving in a way to we're going to start paying them. So like I think that again the other big thing I think is bad about allowing these school districts to have their police departments. They're already asking for bukus of money. Okay, JCPS they just violated the law to institute a tax rate increase on our property taxes, okay, which I don't pay, I rent, whatever. If they're having to build a police department, when will the next time be that they don't institute the maximum property tax increase they possibly can? Because they got an entire police department infrastructure they got to build in a top 20 school district in the country. I mean, to me, they're going to have a pretty good case for why they need an extra $1 billion on top of the $1.8 billion a year they're already getting. So, I mean, again, I just think that we've made some changes that don't make a whole lot of sense. And then, in addition to that, so you have the teachers. So let's say in Jefferson County you have 167 schools. Let's say 25 teachers from different schools sign up for that program. Again, that ain't 167 schools, okay? But it's 25 that you ain't got to worry about. So we're what the have down to 137 schools now. So now instead of needing 142 schools. Instead of having 167 schools we need to fill positions, then we got 142. Chip away at it, okay? Then why aren't we opening up and saying, okay, if you're retired military, you're retired police, and you want to make a difference in your community, you want to protect kids, make it, it's like this should be a positive thing, instead of this being like our kids are bad, we need to lock them up. They're still kids. Even if they're 17. Okay, like let's stop talking about them like they're freaking ex-convicts that have done, some of them done some terrible stuff, but guess what? A lot of them have lived terrible lives. So, we owe it to them at least to, the few interactions that we have to have with them for that to be a positive interaction. Okay, so next we roll it out and say, okay, retired police, retired military, we have an abbreviated, expedited path for you because you have training already. And you're the exact type of person that we want. Okay. Now, also, you still got to interview them, make sure they're people. They know how to communicate and all that, and they're not expecting to walk up in there with a Uzi and a bulletproof vest on every day. But frame it as hey, this is a way to give back. You've already lived your life. You're retired. You're not worried about your pension. All that. You already got all those things. But our kids are in war zones every day. Come help them. I'm just telling you, if you frame it like that, and again, pay them. You can pay them whatever you want to pay them. Considering you're trying to build a police department with cruisers and everything. I mean, Lord, you can pay them $50,000 a year, and you're going to come out like in the black. So again, maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe that's why the left was okay. They were probably the ones pushing this to do their own police department. They're probably excited about their school Gestapo. But you open it up to them, and let's say you get 50 more, retired police, retired military, retired, anybody with any kind of training they've already had, any kind of experience, you can offer them an abbreviated path. Some of them maybe want to go back to the academy even, you know. So, but again, like, we got to have an open mind. There's not going to be a one size fits all. All right, so we were down to 142. Now say we get 42 more from those poor people. We got Fort Knox on the street. We go there and recruit. You know, we got LMPD's driving to Chicago to recruit. Okay, we can do the same thing. You know, go to Chicago and actually recruit retired law enforcement, retired military. Let's say we get it down to 100. Now we only got 100 out of 167 to fill. That's more doable than 167 when LMPD is already short of 300 officers. Okay, but then the kicker on that would be those 100 that are left, we wouldn't be necessarily pulling from pulling as in Pull from their pool, Pool, of officers, and wouldn't be trying to convince officers to leave a pension behind and throw away 11, 12 years of service or whatever to start over. All right, assume that's how it would be. It may not be like that. So someone correct me if I'm wrong. But we can be establishing these subcontract agreements with local PD. That way, we don't have, again, Chris Kolb determining future continuing education, trying to keep up with future training. Like, I mean, what kind of training they're going to require them to get into? Some kind of, you know, like, what's that with the bias you have without you knowing it? But they're going to put them through bias training and diversity and equity and inclusive training, yada, yada. I mean, if y'all think I'm crazy, I'm not Alex Jones. I mean, y'all know who I am. I'm just saying you have to war game things out like that. What kind of training are they going to make them go through? And my gut tells me it'll be similar to stuff they're making teachers go through right now. Okay, not to mention this is the same board, especially in Jefferson County, that is like implementing this restorative. It's called restorative justice, I think, where it's like basically they put a cap on how many times people can be written up. So like, if you've been written up 4 times for fighting and you fight a 5th time, like, hell with it. Sitting back, he's already got 4. We are not helping kids doing that. Okay, as a kid, I'll give you a little personal story here. My mom sent me a letter that I wrote myself when I was 8 or 9. I titled the paper, it said, John Cox, said, my life. It said, my name is John Cox. I was born on yada yada 1986 in Knoxville, Tennessee. And then literally the next line said, fast forward 8 years, I'm going to have a father, period. Those are the kids that we're dealing with here, okay? All those kids that don't have positive role models to rely on when they go home, like their time with their football coach or the one fist bump they get from an SRO in an elementary school, that they might be the only positive interaction they get with an adult male all day. Okay, like, so this stuff is it's just important, and the fact that it's became an argument between the left and the right. Like, this isn't a left or right issue. Again, this is just like HB 51. This is about kids. All right, I ain't got time to fight with adults and make this, you know, something that a way to get them teachers extra pay, or to, like, if you're on the other side of it, I don't have time for this to become an argument where we're bashing teachers. It has nothing to do. This is literally just children deserve to feel safe, right? And a lot of them don't even realize they don't feel safe because it's called trauma. Okay, like, they're trauma victims. When you live in those types of scenarios where you're around drugs and alcohol and in broken homes, or there's domestic violence going on and all that, like, studies are starting to show that it's the same type trauma outcome, PTSD, as like someone who was in war. All right, so these people, like these kids, they're living in war zones. Okay, like I said, that little letter I wrote myself. It's like I was one of those kids being raised by my grandparents. My mom's a great person. I'm not saying she didn't raise me. She did a great job. She was actually she's a teacher. She's a retired teacher now. Love her to death. So mom, I'm not talking trash. But I was raised by my grandparents. Okay, like, she was young, was dating a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, she had the rest of her life to live. I get it, right? Every time I'd come and go with my dad's child support with me $1 up there, right? But they didn't want nothing to do with me. Okay, like he died of a drug overdose, along with several other people in my family. They lived together 3 or 4 generations at a time. I mean, like Southeast Kentucky and the West End of Louisville, those two communities got to realize how like similar they are and how much in common they have, and that we are not against each other. Okay, there is a group of people we are against, but they're trying to align themselves with either the urban West End kids or with the Southeast Kentucky like pro teacher kids. That, they're trying to align with and like keep us separate, but really it's us that's being affected here. And so again, like I said, 9 out of 10 of those shootings were in populations of less than 75,000 people. Now, this may be my final point. Y'all know me, I'm probably going to ramble a little bit more here. But to me, what we're talking about here, and the reason that some people feel they can use this as a political bargaining chip is because they're looking at the statistics and the probabilities of, okay, well, if we don't actually do something and we just complain about police officers and SROs and we talk about defunding the police, or we want to talk about gun control, or what we can, like as opposed to just solving the problem, we're going to talk about those things. They're looking at probabilities, okay? Because even as bad as things are, and all these school shootings, and it's terrible. I have 4 little children, 2, 4, 6, and 8, so obviously I care about kids. I coach, all that. Like, every kid's death is absolutely tragic, right? But they know the probabilities of one of these happening in their community is virtually 0. So they can use this as a political football. The problem with that is, whether you're talking about cleaning up Jefferson County schools where you're having 121 fights a day and 9 violence-related, incidents per day, or if you're talking about these small communities that are having school shootings, the communities, the people that are living in them, the poor little redneck, boys like myself, like poor little black kids like my buddy Pink. He was from Eastern Kentucky, but let's just say poor black kids in the West End. We don't live in a world that's based off probabilities. Okay, we live in a world focused on consequences. Okay, so it's like, doesn't matter to us what the probability is overall in the statewide, what the chances are of getting addicted to opiates or getting shot when you walk down the street. We actually have to worry about the consequences of, well, if my dad is that part of that 5% that's going to get addicted to opiates, like, what the heck happens to me as a little kid, right? Like, if I'm a 13-year-old and I live in the West End, yeah, it's a very low chance in the state of Kentucky you're going to walk down the street and get shot. But if you live in the West End, it ain't about probabilities statewide. It's about the consequences of walking down the street in the West End, and like the fact that all those chances of getting shot walking down the street, they're all down there. So it's consequences. Okay, it's just like I'm in insurance, so I explain it like this: like a lot of people want to talk about when they talk about life insurance, they're like, oh, I'm not gonna die or whatever. I'm gonna live long, healthy life. But they're also, a lot of times, those people are also people that are working, making money. Okay, like, so if they die, they're gonna have at least some money in the bank, or like a house their kids can live in, or whatever. Or at least they think that. That's actually not. That's not the truth. But let's say that it is for someone like me, right? Like, my dad could have said that, but he didn't have a job. He didn't have a high school diploma, so the probability's telling me he's going to live a long life, but the consequences of him not buying life insurance means that when he died, I got $18 a month in Social Security until I turned 18. I think when I turned 18, my mom gave me the money. I went and bought like a Packard Bell computer or something with it. So that man, J.K. Marcus Cox, his life, like, when I'm gone, when I'm gone and his other kids are gone, he'll be forgotten because there's no legacy there. So again, that's the topic for our discussion, but I'm just saying, like, in these poor communities, it ain't about probabilities, it's about consequences. Okay, and so we got to stop dealing in the realm of that and using things for political footballs. Just because deep down they know that it's not they don't really have to worry about this stuff as a bigger issue. And so so that's that's where we're at. I'm very interested to know how you all feel about all this, all these topics, all the things I've talked about here. Again, the next one will be a live stream. One final point, promise. Going back to teachers that are allowed to carry in schools. Okay, so since Columbine, if I remember correctly, it's 96 or 98. I think it's 96. Since Columbine, in schools that allow teachers to conceal carry, there have been zero. You heard me correctly. Zero gun-related injuries or deaths in those states. So I'm sitting here saying I'm not even arguing for that to be for all teachers to be able to conceal carry. That stat right there. Now, also we'd have to extrapolate it out and see what those states are and what the population density is like and what the makeup's like, all that. But this idea that maybe getting rid of all the guns is the idea, or should be the goal. It's that proof it's nonsense. So maybe that is the way we go. One thing I will tell everyone is if we don't do something reasonable and allow people that are trained and that have the desire to keep our kids safe an opportunity and a process to go through that, what we will end up getting is this extreme for 5 years, and then this extreme for 5 years, and this extreme for 5 years, and then back across. So again, like when I say reasonable, I don't mean meet in the middle and compromise. I mean like actual fine, reasonable solutions that aim to solve the problem and are pragmatic and have been war gamed out and are likely to succeed. Okay, but again, zero gun-related injuries or deaths in states that allow their teachers to conceal carry. Why aren't we at least discussing letting the ones that want to carry? Okay, so again, a lot to think about there. I do want to dig into kind of what I'm afraid is going to go on with these establishing their own police department thing. I'm afraid it's about to be another money grab. Okay, so it's like, afraid it's going to be a money grab, and then they're going to use that money to, I think I saw in which one was this? It was in the Paducah article where they're going to be planning on training their teachers on student mental health first aid. Mental health first aid is buzzwords for something else that we'll talk about in another video that we all should be alarmed about. Okay, but we're giving them another coffer of money that they're going to exploit, and use against us. We can't allow that to happen. So again, to recap, this is not a city issue. All right, need a big city yuppie issue, which is a bunch of city boys and city black kids and people in the hood, shooting each other up, all that. It ain't just that. It is that, but it ain't just that. All right. It's also rural areas where, at least in 2018, 90% of the mass shootings occurred. Okay. Same time, we should not be just focused on getting police or SROs in high schools and middle schools. Data from all over the country tells us that this stuff is happening in elementary schools. Okay, we're talking 59 out of 145. So almost 50%, I think it's like right at mid 40% occurred of shootings in 2020 and 2021 occurred in elementary schools. All right. And in Louisville, the majority elementary schools had the most fighting referrals, so K through 5, meaning that involved fighting with teachers and other staff. Okay, so we're just misguided on so many things. We should be focused on alternative, multiple paths of becoming certified school resource officers with training provided to the local police department that are designed to do just that, to deal with training and recruitment and all this stuff, that partner with the schools, and the schools can fund it, all that. We can talk about funding another time because it's not a problem. All that COVID money, they can use it. If you don't believe me, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you soon. I'll put in the show notes a link to it as well. So yeah, I mean, there's just it's there for, we can do this, right? We just all got to kind of work together. We got to talk about this stuff, all the way down, bare bones, war game it out. All right. So, and then lastly, said we got to put people in our elementary schools, and we got to focus on putting people in there that aren't just focused on taking care, like on putting away bad kids. We got to put people in there that are focused on improving their communities, building bridges between communities that historically do not have positive interactions with law enforcement. Okay, like people that are willing to go the next step and stay calm and stay like have some poise and realize that they get to be the generation changer of like showing these kids that police care about you, and our number one priority is not disciplining you or locking you up. It's keeping you safe inside this school building. Okay, now yes, that means the minute you become the reason it's not safe in here, none of this restorative justice crap, you get a couple strikes and then you're out. All right, because the rest of the school building shouldn't suffer for those few kids. All right. But if we'll focus on those things and make it a positive, just like HB 51, HB 51 was positive. All right, we were focusing on children, not fighting fights about public and private employers and all that stuff. We were trying to protect kids, and that's what this is about here. Okay, so again, thank you all for watching. This is the Way Too Much JRMC podcast here. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble. I will be on Apple Podcast and Spotify and Stitcher and all that here probably like midweek. I'm going to start trying to put out some consistent content for you guys. Longer episodes, shorter episodes, stuff that isn't just politics. You know what I mean? I'm just going to try to give you Way Too Much JRMC, right? So if you don't mind, subscribe to the channel, comment on all this stuff. But if we want grassroots movements to grow, when we find people that are trying to do that, trying to provide you the information and let you make your own determinations and then run with it, we got to support one another. All right. So if there's other people out there trying to do it, as I find them, I'm going to start saying, hey, go check this person's podcast out. Whatever. Again, thank you to all the groups that are always watching. Church County Kids Matter, the Raise Your Voice groups, parental choice at public schools, all the parental groups, parental rights groups all over the state, and everywhere else. I hope as we start taking this thing nationwide, because I feel like Kentucky's a microcosm of so many places in the country, because our population isn't homogenous anywhere. We are very diverse everywhere in the state, and so again, just thank you for support. Thanks for watching. Pink and I will have another Way Too Much JRMC or Way Too Much with JRMC and Pink coming up here later on this week. I'm going to talk about some different stuff. Excited about that. You can go over and find him at Way Too Much Pink on all his social platforms and everything as well. But love you guys. Thanks for listening. I got to get out of here. I got a baseball game and I got football helmet handouts. So hug you kids. Give your kids an extra kiss tonight after hearing all those stats. Didn't tell you all that stuff to scare you to death. It is what it is, and we got to talk about the tough topics. Can't wait to hear what y'all have to say. Like, subscribe, share this video, and y'all have a great rest of your evening.